Okay, it is Friday, May 9th. Let's talk PlayStation. Okay, so we got a lot of stuff to talk about this week. E3's right around the corner, coming up in June, and rumors are all over the place, especially for Sony, and industry insiders are certainly using that to their advantage if they're to be believed. So the biggest news story easily this week, and we'll get right into it, is that there was a source that contacted DualShockers that basically outlined Sony's entire E3 press conference and what is going to be in the show. Now, before I break down every single thing that was in this leak of what is apparently going to be in Sony's E3 press conference, I'm going to tell you right now, not all this is happening. Fucking chance all of this is happening. Certainly by odds and statistics and, kind of dumb obviousness, some of this is going to happen, clearly, but there is no chance in how all this is going to happen. So apparently, what this leak says is that, here's what is apparently going to happen. Some of this stuff is double-sourced, which, means two people inside the industry are basically saying, yes, this is going to happen, so that piece of leakage has some more ground to stand on compared to the other stuff. But, alright, so apparently there's going to be an Uncharted PS4 3-minute trailer showcasing in-game footage. Summer 2015 release. Media Molecule will be there showing off their new game, 3D world building, beautiful, quirky visuals, whatever, possibly related to the entwined trademark. Gran Turismo 6 is coming to PS4, 1080p, 60 frames per second, repackaged. God of War 4 teaser will be present, apparently. The Killstrain trademark is related to Siphon Filter. Reboot for PS4. Wipeout is also coming to PS4, apparently. Quantic Dream has a trailer for their unannounced game. It also says Sony will be watching Microsoft's presser earlier in the day to gauge whether or not they should include additional announcements, which, again, right there is straight bullshit, honestly. Ready at Dawn will be there to show off some footage of the Order 1886. Apparently Ninja Theory is going to show off a new PS4 exclusive, possibly a Heavenly Sword sequel. Sony London will be there to showcase a AAA PS4 game. Guerrilla Games will be there to bring their rumored RPG to show off. Sucker Punch is busy at work on Infamous Second Son DLC, so they'll show that off. Sony Japan Studio debuting 2, maybe even 3 titles. Spiritual successor to Demon's Souls, which we'll talk about in a second. The Last Guardian, rebooted for PS4. And some other titles shrouded in secrecy. And Evolution will be there to show off Drive Club. And then it says a bunch of third-party developers will be there, like Ubisoft, Electronic Arts, Konami, Capcom, Warner Brothers. And apparently the source is definitely not sure about this, but apparently Take-Two and Rockstar might also be there to announce Grand Theft Auto 5 coming to next-gen platforms. No. So to break all that down, sounds awesome, of course. It'd be great if all that is going to happen, but it's not going to happen. Reason being is because that's way too much stuff for this presser. You'd need like 3 hours of stage time to show all that stuff off. And that just does not sound like a Sony press conference. If you traditionally watch Sony press conferences, you know more or less what goes down. Way too much first-party stuff in that leak. They wouldn't show off that much stuff. They would have, there's just not enough stage time, and Sony traditionally loves to have a lot of third-party developers on to speak about, whatever they're working on. Ubisoft will usually have a big presence at Sony's conference, and that takes up a good 10, 15 minutes. And it's not certainly an exclusive game, but, you've got exclusive content. Like, Assassin's Creed is always there to show off some stupid exclusive mission. All that stuff isn't going to happen. Third parties are going to get a lot more stage time. Sony has to talk about all 3 platforms, not just one platform. Too good to be true. Way too good to be true. But of course, like I said earlier, statistically, some of that stuff is probably going to happen. Which transitions us nicely into our next news story, which is kind of more or less the same news story. But industry insider Tidix wanted to touch on all this leakage, and he confirms a few of these things. He's basically saying the Uncharted PS4 demo is real, the Order 1886 demo is real, Evolution Studios demo is real, and Studio Japan's demo is real, of whatever games they're going to announce. The 2 or 3 games possibly that they will announce. Industry insider Tidix also boldly claimed that the developer Respawn actually has Titanfall running on PlayStation 4 internally in their studio. This, of course, if true, does not mean that Titanfall 1 is coming to PlayStation 4, but rather the company is getting the technology ready, putting the assets on the system, seeing how it works, start coding, because of course Titanfall made a lot of money, and it's more than likely that the sequel to the game will come to PlayStation 4, so they want to get that tech running now to, make the job easier in the end result. Because as we all clearly know, EA and Microsoft has made it explicitly clear that the legal contract for Titanfall 1 to go anywhere is pretty much sealed tight, no clauses in it, so there's probably no chance it will come to PlayStation 4. Thus why, if that information's true, they're probably gearing up for the sequel. I tell you, man, we keep talking about this guy Tedix. He is about to eat his words come June to see if all this stuff ends up being true. He's been right in the past, that's why I mention his information in this video. That's usually how I at least handle industry insiders. If they prove they've got the right info, then I will relay it to you guys. But hey, while we're on the damn topic of industry insiders, let's talk about this Shinobi guy. He says that God of War Ascension is coming to the PlayStation 4. Of course, a simple remaster, up the resolution, up the frame rate, it's coming. He also claims to know that Sony Ben's AAA PS4 exclusive game is not Siphon Filter, but a completely new original title. He doesn't know if it's related to any of the trademarks Sony listed, but he knows for sure that it's not a Siphon Filter title. Which is funny because that actually conflicts with the earlier leak we just talked about in this very video, where it said Sony Ben is working on Siphon Filter. So we'll see who's right here. The next rumor we're going to talk about is probably the most credible because all sources are agreeing that this is definitely coming, and we actually have some pictures to show off. Now this is from 4chan, and this is apparently from Software's next game. It's called Project Beast, and it is apparently going to be an exclusive AAA PlayStation 4 game. Now clearly, more or less what this looks like is a successor, spiritual successor to Demon Souls, Dark Souls 2. That's, from Software. That's what they do, is the Souls series. And it's been rumored for a while actually that another Souls game is going to come to PlayStation 4 exclusively, since Dark Souls ended up going multi-platform. This should still be treated as a rumor though, because we don't know for sure. But this one is definitely the most convincing, considering those are some pretty good pictures, and we've got multiple sources, and this is a very long-standing rumor so far. So we'll have to wait and see if this is actually coming. So this story is actually pretty cool. A freelancer artist for Naughty Dog, Marek Okan, hope I pronounced his name right, posted on his Facebook some fan art for The Last of Us, where he basically drew what appears to be a grown-up Ellie playing guitar, and still very much so in the post-apocalyptic universe that The Last of Us is known for. Now sure, he does consider it fan art, but what he actually wrote on Facebook is the really titillating part, which said, let me tease you something, ... it's coming. And then he also wrote, is it The Last of Us 2? Maybe. But seriously, it's just fan art. Interesting stuff. And I think what's worth noting here is that we're talking about the possibility of a Last of Us sequel here, clearly. Is it going to happen? I think it absolutely would, considering this is, at the end of the day, a business. Last of Us 1 made a lot of money. If they can make a second one and make a lot of money, they would totally do it. I'm not saying it's being worked on now. I don't know that for a fact. But I would assume The Last of Us 2 would come eventually. I don't know if now. Moving on, let's do a quick-fire news story. Sony filed another trademark, this time for Guns Up, and it's filed as video game software. That's it, man. Trademarks. E3 right around the corner. Sony's got 12 developers. We've always been talking about these AAA games. They're probably coming now. Who remembers Amplitude on the PlayStation 2? Well, turns out, Harmonix wants to do a reboot of the game for PlayStation 3 and PlayStation 4. What's really interesting about this one is that Harmonix has chosen to go to Kickstarter. They're requesting $775,000 to greenlight the game. They're currently at around $100,000 or something, and there's 14 days left on the Kickstarter as of posting this video. And it's still going to be, it's a PlayStation exclusive. It will be a PlayStation exclusive because Sony is involved. I'm not sure if they're involved with a lot of funding. I would have to assume some, because they're definitely going to be doing publishing rights, because Sony owns the name Amplitude, and that's like the reason why Harmonix didn't choose the route of doing a spiritual successor and calling this a different name to do a multi-platform. They wanted to do Amplitude, they wanted to be published under Sony, so I would assume Sony has some sort of funding involvement, but they are still doing crowdsourcing. I get what they're saying is they want to see the interest for the game. If people are really interested in it, then they will greenlight it at $775,000. Moving right along, so the DualShock 4 Lightbar, interesting stuff, right? We thought it was just for that PlayStation camera. Wrong. So it was announced this week that the Lightbar was actually also made in mind with Project Morpheus, which we of course didn't know about until it was announced just a few months ago. And that's the reason why Sony was very silent on the topic of why we can't turn off the light or what the light's for, or, you know, why would you make a camera and all that when there's really no greater impact to it. In reality, it was made in conjunction with Project Morpheus. Certainly adds up. I mean, that's kind of what really Sony is completely going for under this whole thing. They've been working on this technology for a while, and they've got all those assets there since they built PlayStation Move how many years ago. That's completely what they're working on, is light tracking. They did it with Move, they're doing it with the controller, the camera, and now Morpheus. So, interesting. Didn't know that before, and now we know it. Alright, so that's about it for this episode of Let's Talk PlayStation. I'm Ryan Benecki. Thank you so much for talking with me. Oh, excuse me. God, it's fucking disgusting. I'll see you next Friday.